Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear guys, 10 tips for teaching English for those people who are teaching English to the students in their classrooms. They are teachers or they are mentors or they are instructors and they are teaching to the students. These 10 tips are very good and to follow for those who are teaching and they can teach better after acting upon the 10 tips I have mentioned in this video. The first, possess the necessary qualifications. Although you may be an excellent English teacher, English speaker, that does not guarantee you are qualified to teach others. If you really want to teach English as a second language, you will need a bachelor degree in any field and a 120-hour TOEFL certification. You can get your TOEFL or TESOL master degree online or through college course. You will be provided resources to apply for open employment and begin your new teaching career, whether it is overseas or at home, once you have completed your qualification. Your qualification must be complete to teach English to the students. Point number and tip number 2, keep things straightforward. To keep things simple and straightforward. When teaching English as a foreign language, this is one of the most crucial roles to remember. Indeed, by adding extra word or two to a statement, you run the risk of over complicating it for your students. Move to the front of the class, please, rather than would you mind coming to the front of the class. It is a preferable way to ask a student to come to the front of the class. When working with the novices, it is essential to utilize the simplest sentences possible to guarantee that your pupils are receiving right building blocks that will help them to understand the language, use simple terminology, and progressively introduce additional terminology. The tip number 3, make extensive use of visuals. Using images in classroom, whether you are teaching toddlers or adults, is critical. These visualization can take the shape of the tangible labels on tables, sheets, computer screens, and doors, for example. They can also take the shape of illustrations such as handouts and sketches. Your people will be able to relate to the actual objects and pictures and will learn to recognize particular phrases if you use wheels. You can also create a graphic wall to aid your kids in expanding their vocabulary and matching word to their meaning. A picture really does speak 1,000 words in an ESL classroom. Your kids will be able to assimilate material faster if you use timelines to illustrate grammatical tenses. The tip number 4, make your lesson enjoyable. There, I have noticed that there are many English teachers who are in a very angry mood in their classroom, so the students cannot enjoy from this learning process. It is difficult to learn a foreign language for long periods of time without becoming bored out of your head. To keep your students from bolting out the door at the sound of the bell, make your lesson as enjoyable as possible to keep your people's attention, including their interests into the lesson. Use the firefighting, dog marshal, and the police pup chase in your cases if you are teaching young children who live paw patrol. Games and also fun exercises. Divide the class into two groups and have them compete against each other during the session. This advantageous method of learning is very effective. Plan and prepare in advance. Always plan your lesson. Every great teacher knows the importance of excellent lesson planning. As your students are unpredictable, there is no way you can step foot into a classroom and wing it. Instead, you need to print enough worksheets for the entire class. Ensure that you have prepared enough for your allocated lesson time while you having backup solution in the event and activity is not working very well. You must think about how you will introduce a new language into a classroom and whether your students are ready to move on with the syllabus or if anything needs revisiting. Don't move on to new topic without making sure all your students are comfortable. You can check this by using a small pop quiz at the beginning of your class lessons. The tip number 6. Tip number 6, creating a setting that is both safe and sportive. Students must feel comfortable and supported in order to completely express themselves. They should not be afraid of making mistakes, and they should be treated with kindness. Encourage them to speak up and carefully rectify errors. It is sometimes appropriate to let things slip. If the statement is correct overall, allow time for them to formulate their response and wait patiently for a response. Don't go on to another student. If you can tell that you are considering the best way to respond your question, simply to motivate kids to continue learning, you should recognize good work and effort. This can vary depending on the age group. However, for a young class, you could create a The tip number 7, establish classroom rules. Any classroom needs rules to ensure that there are clear expectations and a sufficient framework. You should give verbal and written instructions and keep a list of them in a conspicuous spot when establishing your own standards on day 1. Refer to these rules if a student falls out of line, and make sure that entire class understand what is and is not acceptable. Your classroom may become unruly if you don't have defined rule in place, and you may end up wasting time yelling at your people rather than focusing on what they should be studying. Tip number 8. Use a variety of learning methods. You will develop your own teaching method as time goes on. However, if you are just getting started, you should experiment with different teaching methods. Games, quizzes, show and tell, silent reading, and acted out challenges are all examples of this. Whatever approach you use, it is critical to divide your courses into a manageable chunks. If you are teaching, the tip number 9, keep cultural differences in mind. If you are teaching English in a foreign country, you will almost certainly encounter cultural differences in classroom. Some students, for example, may believe that simply showing up to class and not speaking is the norm. This is where you will need to be aware of cultural differences and work with your student to gradually adjust their attitude to accommodate your teaching methods. However, there are some instances when you must adhere to cultural conventions. In some cultures, making eye contact is considered impolite. However, in the Western world, it is an indication that the individual is paying attention to you. Keep cultural differences in mind when you are teaching students. They are not relating to your own culture. Make use of technology. Teaching methods are continuously changing, and you as a teacher are always learning. The days of chalk and a chalkboard are long gone. In today's digital world, technology plays an important role in active learning. You can use short films, language apps, music in your classroom to interact with your teach-savvy kids. You might also send quizzes to their phones and receive immediate feedback. Keep in mind that not all kids will have access to technology. Therefore, these techniques should be used with older students who are more likely to own a smartphone or tablet. If a teacher is not aware of latest technology, especially on the computer presentation, he cannot draw attractive presentation on his computer, so that the attention of the students must be toward the lessons. He is not a successful teacher nowadays. The technology, you must be very expert in handling technology pertaining to education purposes. And also, if you don't understand the technology properly to use in classes, you should take proper training from any institutes which will train you as a good teacher, or you will enjoy using technology in your classroom, Also your students will also be very interesting, and they will not get boring during the lecture when you are giving in English. The student cannot study it a long time because it burns the mind of the students when they have to learn again and again the same meaning and words. A language is a difficult thing. To make it interesting, you should use technology in your classroom. Thank you very much.